The coffee hit the floor before the words did. Amber Lewis froze as the ceramic mug shattered beside the conference table, hot coffee splashing across polished marble and soaking the hem of her cheap black slacks. Nobody moved. Not the assistants, not the executives, not the interns pretending not to stare, and definitely not Nathaniel Reed. The CEO of Reed Financial stood at the head of the room, tall and immaculate, in a charcoal suit that probably cost more than Amber's monthly rent. His icy blue eyes lowered to the mess at his feet, then slowly lifted to her trembling face. For one awful second, the entire 42nd floor went silent. Then he sighed, not loudly, not angrily. Worse, disappointed. "Do you always bring chaos into every room you enter?" he asked coldly. "Or is today special?" A few uncomfortable chuckles spread across the table. Amber felt her throat tighten. "I'm sorry, sir." The tray slipped. "Sorry doesn't recover." "Confidential documents." Nathaniel pulled a damp report away from the spreading coffee. This meeting involved investors who flew across the country. Her face burned. She wanted to disappear. "I'll clean it," she whispered. "You'll do more than that. HR can decide whether you're suited for this floor at all." The words landed like a slap. Amber nodded quickly, forcing herself not to cry in front of everyone. She crouched to gather broken ceramic with shaking fingers while executives avoided eye contact. No one noticed the tiny cut on her palm. No one except the janitor near the doorway. And strangely, Nathaniel himself. For the briefest moment, his expression shifted, just slightly, as though guilt tried to surface before years of discipline buried it again. But Amber never saw it. Because humiliation has a way of blurring everything, especially dignity. By lunchtime, the entire office knew. The cleaning staff woman who spilled coffee on the CEO. The single mom barely surviving in New York. The employee who might get fired before Friday. Amber sat alone in the break room staring at her phone screen. One unread message from her daughter. "Mommy, don't forget tonight is the school concert." Her chest tightened instantly. Lily, 10 years old, asthmatic, brilliant. The only reason, Amber kept pushing. Through double shifts and exhaustion and impossible rent increases. Amber quickly wiped her eyes before replying. "Wouldn't miss it for the world, baby." Then she looked down at her bleeding palm and finally allowed herself one silent cry. Not because Nathaniel Reed embarrassed her, but because she couldn't afford to lose this job. Not now, not when Lily's inhalers already cost too much. Not when the electricity bill sat unpaid inside her purse. Not when she'd promised her daughter life would get better soon. 3 floors above her, Nathaniel Reed stared out the massive glass windows of his office while Manhattan glittered below. Was the public humiliation necessary? His assistant quietly asked. Nathaniel didn't answer immediately. He loosened his tie instead. She compromised a high-level meeting. She spilled coffee. He turned sharply. "You think leadership means softness?" "No," she replied carefully. "But I think people remember cruelty longer than mistakes." Nathaniel looked away again. Cruelty. The word lingered longer than he expected. He had spent 20 years building Reed Financial from almost nothing. Poverty had carved ambition into his bones early. His father died broke. His mother worked until cancer took her too. Compassion never paid bills. Perfection did. That belief made him powerful, but also very alone. At 7 that evening, Amber rushed through crowded Manhattan streets toward Lily's school auditorium, still wearing her wrinkled work uniform beneath a borrowed coat. Rain poured hard enough to blur traffic lights. Her phone buzzed. Unknown number. "Hello? Ms. Lewis?" a panicked voice asked. "This is Riverside Elementary." Lily collapsed during rehearsal. "The ambulance already left." Amber stopped breathing. "What?" She had trouble breathing. Severe asthma attack. The world tilted. Cars honked as Amber stumbled into the street trying to flag a cab. "Please," she cried, waving desperately. "Please." But every taxi sped past. Rain drenched her hair. Terror swallowed her whole. Then headlights stopped beside her. A black SUV, the passenger window rolled down slowly. Nathaniel Reed stared at her from inside. For a moment, neither spoke. Then he noticed her face. The panic, the tears. "What happened?" "My daughter," Amber choked out. "She's in the hospital." Nathaniel didn't hesitate. "Get in." She blinked. "What?" "Get in." The drive through Manhattan traffic felt endless. Amber sat rigid in the passenger seat, clutching her phone with white knuckles while Nathaniel drove faster than she thought possible. She stopped breathing during rehearsal, Amber whispered shakily. She's scared of hospitals. Nathaniel glanced at her briefly. How old? 10. He nodded once. And for reasons Amber couldn't explain, his voice softened. She'll fight hard for you. When they reached St. Vincent Medical Center, Amber jumped out before the SUV fully stopped. Nathaniel followed anyway. Inside the emergency room, chaos exploded around them. Doctors rushed past. Machines beeped. A nurse approached quickly. Family of Lily Lewis? Amber nearly collapsed with relief. Yes! She's in critical respiratory distress. We need authorization for immediate treatment. But there's an insurance issue. Amber froze. What issue? The medication required isn't fully covered. How much? The nurse hesitated. $7,000. Amber stared at her as if she'd spoken another language. 7,000. She barely had 70. Please, Amber whispered. Just help her. We are helping her, ma'am, but I'll cover it. Everyone turned. Nathaniel stood behind them, already pulling out his wallet. The nurse blinked. Sir, whatever she needs, he said firmly. Do it now. Amber stared at him in shock. You don't have to. Yes, he interrupted quietly. I do. Within seconds, doctors moved. Amber watched helplessly through glass as nurses surrounded Lily's tiny body. Oxygen masks. Machines. Urgent voices. Her daughter looked so small in that hospital bed. So fragile. Amber finally broke. A sob escaped her chest as her knees gave out beneath her. And before she hit the floor, Nathaniel caught her. For the next 2 hours, neither left the waiting room. Rain battered the windows outside while silence stretched between them. Then Nathaniel spoke unexpectedly. My mother died because we couldn't afford treatment. Amber looked at him. He stared straight ahead. I was 14. We spent weeks begging hospitals for extensions. His jaw tightened. I promised myself I'd never be powerless again. The confession stunned her, because powerful men rarely spoke about pain. I'm sorry, she whispered. He nodded faintly. I saw your file after the meeting today, he admitted. Single mother. Extra shifts, medical debt. He exhaled slowly. And I still chose humiliation over understanding. Amber said nothing. Because honesty can hurt almost as much as cruelty. I became the kind of man I used to hate, he said quietly. The words hung heavy between them. Then the emergency room doors opened. A doctor approached with a tired smile. She's stable now? Amber burst into tears. Relief crashed through her so hard she could barely stand. She's asking for her mom. Amber hurried into the room instantly. Lily lay pale against white pillows, oxygen tubes beneath her nose. But when she saw Amber, her tired face brightened. Mommy! Amber kissed her forehead over and over. I'm here, baby. I'm here. Then Lily noticed Nathaniel standing quietly near the doorway. Who's that? Amber turned. Before she could answer, Nathaniel stepped closer awkwardly. I'm a friend. Lily smiled weakly. Thank you for helping my mom. Something shifted in Nathaniel's face then. Something deep. Because children have a way of speaking directly to the parts adults try to bury. The next Monday, employees at Reed Financial prepared for another brutal executive meeting. Whispers spread when Amber stepped onto the 42nd floor again. But this time, Nathaniel Reed walked beside her. The room fell silent instantly. Nathaniel stood at the head of the conference table and looked directly at every executive present. Last week, he began calmly, I publicly disrespected someone who deserved dignity. Shock flickered across the room. He continued, leadership without humanity is failure. And I failed. No one moved. Nathaniel turned toward Amber. Ms. Lewis, your position here is permanent if you still want it. Your salary is being increased effective immediately, and the company will fully cover your daughter's medical care. Amber's eyes filled instantly. The executives looked stunned, but Nathaniel wasn't finished. He glanced around the room one final time. Never mistake someone's job title for their value as a human being. Silence followed. Not uncomfortable silence, reflective silence, the kind that changes people. Months later, Lily performed at her school, concert wearing a bright blue dress and the biggest smile on her face. Front row seats were reserved for Amber, and beside her sat Nathaniel Reed, not as a CEO, not as a billionaire, just as a man who finally remembered that success means very little if kindness disappears along the way. When Lily finished singing, the audience erupted into applause. Nathaniel clapped the loudest. And for the first time in years, Amber saw tears in his eyes.